Yes, Sanele, something is always cooking in our kitchen, but also our lounge, especially when it comes to entertainment. And right now, JP joins us on the couch because we're going to be talking about all things Women's Month, Women's Day, and women-centric films / feminist films.
Sure.
Right?
Some array, some spectrum of just women-themed and centered.
Because
not each film has a feminist agenda, but there are ways of telling the story that can make such a powerful statement.
Yeah. And oh man, I'm even averse to that word agenda.
For sure, yeah.
Just creepy feminists
They're gonna
everywhere.
come
It's
for you.
no, feminism's a good thing and we need more
Exactly.
of it. So this is my personal favorites of course there's some very obvious ones that I could have spoken about, like of the larger blockbusters, like Mad Max Fury Road in a very like rudimentary way even. You could say it's about men realizing that they have some sort of obligation to be allies, etc., to say Charlize Theron's character, etc. You got The Favorite and all of that. But I want to get into the smaller, maybe even more artsy kind of things. Okay. But these are all big hitters and they're all beautiful, and some of them are even some of my favorite directors. And the first one is, well, it was competing with Parasite back in 2019, so there was no way I was going to like choose Portrait of a Lady on Fire over Parasite. But what a beautiful movie. Preposterous, guys. This was shot in 8K. The director, Celine Sciamma, if ever you need to see a movie in 8K rather than 4K or 2K or whatever, it's just because the range of colors and just it's obviously every shot has to be a painting if you're going to deal in.
I was about to say that. Wow, look at that.
And so the story is very fascinating, and it's one of these things that could be a good conversation starter if you're just having to say girls' night, a ladies' night, a women's night, an others' night, whatever you want to call it. Or even men need to be thoughtful about these things. And what's very interesting is the obvious absence of men in the story, but men are just sort of this pervading spirit, this threat, this looming agenda, if you like. And the story being is that a character played by Adele Haenel is she's commissioned by a royal woman to paint a painting of her daughter, but in secret because her daughter's very against the idea of posing for painters because she knows it means she's about to be married off. The painting gets sent to some random Italian dude who's like, yeah, I picked that one. Kind of. So like, what an intense story about betraying your own. About in secret she's trying to catch all these details. Like, what does her chin look like in this light? What does her form look like and whatever. So, and then obviously love starts to bloom. The story is very interesting in that if you want to get into the deep stuff of Freudian and Lacanian scopophilia and phallocentrism and all that kind of stuff, the idea of the male gaze we're taking a step back from is that the movie is really talking about the way men objectify and hypersexualize women as these commodities, these objects that they take away from their families and whatever and make of their own of.
Used as part of a trade.
So
that sounds brilliant.
The actress was even trained by an actress, by a painter, how to look. How do painters look? How do they absorb another person? So it's very much about being looked at, but also the look of being looked at as well. It's very interesting. Anyway, whatever. Do try and find Portrait of a Lady on Fire. However, the next one I have to talk about is The Handmaiden by Park Chan-wook, and that name is very important for a lot of people who love cinema because he did Old Boy. Woo! What a beautiful movie. This guy is a sicko for just precision in his editing, in his style. And sorry, Graham.
I was going to say, and a film that is uncomfortable yet compelling to watch. You want to watch it, you feel like you have to watch it, but when you're watching it, you're like feeling so hectic because it's just different.
You were able to get your hands on this. It's great. So yeah, it's a good point I got to make to people is that not all of these are for like family-friendly movies because women's issues are serious issues. And interestingly, similar to Portrait of a Lady on Fire, there's another con going on, where this group of con jobs decide that in colonial Korea, which is to say under the thrall of Japan as the colonizer, they're going to con this rich Japanese family by sneaking in a servant, similar to Parasite in a way, and a guy who's going to fraudulently make paintings on behalf of the family so that they can wrangle their way in to get the inheritance and whatever. But it becomes another game of who's framing who and who's tricking who and who's conning who.
Who's the villain,
But why these themes are really interesting here is, aside from the sort of the sexual awakening of characters realizing what their real desires are, is also this compounding of coloniality or like colonial forces and these patriarchal forces being used and weaponized by men and even in some cases by women against their own. Again, so if you like, a betrayal of women by women.
Layers. Oh my goodness.
And again, that's why I said these are like heavy conversation starters, if you like. But another incredible movie by Park Chan-wook, do watch Oldboy as well. But The Handmaiden is intensely good. Man, what a well-made movie.
Take us back to 2016,
Yes.
Raw.
A coming-of-age movie, and instantly this director, this was her first movie, Julia Ducournau, became one of my favorite directors.
Wow.
She's marvelous. Titan is also incredible. And this young lady decides that, well, it's time to go to college, and she's been raised her whole life by parents who are very coddling, very protective. They raised her vegetarian, so she's very health concerned. She's a brilliant student as well, straight A's and all this kind of stuff. Goes to veterinary school, where obviously there's a bunch of like, well, the new sensations, the new pleasures to be had while the parents aren't around. And there's also this initiation ceremony where she's forced to eat animal meat for the first time, and it awakens something in her. And this is not for sensitive viewers as well. If you aren't a fan of cannibalism, let me tell you that the Brazilian wax scene in this is going to be the mildest thing you see. You're going to be thankful.
Okay, that's our jumping off point.
You're going to be thankful for the Brazilian waxing scene in this. But it's a great story again about like repression. Like if you're not dealing with these feelings early on, and if you're not talking with your children, and if you're not helping women
context,
through, in her case, one of the feelings is she continuously pushes down her brilliance because she doesn't want to shine too bright, kind of thing, or stick out too much. So I think women can relate to this feeling.
But what I love about that, even the trailer, you kind of get a feeling, a pull, an inertia of almost like before an accident, that kind of feeling of like, oh, it's coming.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, man, Julia Ducournau, she's a bit of a freak. She really loves. There's a lot of body horror. It's really hairy to look at sometimes, but it all has a big heart behind it, and I really recommend that as well for anyone if you've got the stomach, for women especially, to see these sort of very awakening kind of things.
Women and men alike. I mean, we can sit down, maybe don't grab the popcorn, but definitely enjoy the movies that JP's given us. 2019, 2016, and 2016 are the years.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Welcome back. Thank you so much for choosing to join us at the start of Women's Day here in South Africa. JP Sebastian very kindly taking us on a beautiful path this morning, looking at, let's call it, femme-centric films. He has been very clear these aren't feminist films, but films that really speak to the female narrative that certainly have grabbed his attention, and you've brought some rather heavy-hitting films for this time of the day.
Yeah, no, Carissa, you rightly raised, like, JP, what's going on?
Like, where's the rom-coms? What's cannibalism?
Which is okay,
In my choices, I only realized afterwards, I was like, JP, you chose these really hardcore, like intense things. And I think one of the reasons is because if you look up any list on the internet, it's going to offer you, Barbie is the first thing on the list. I didn't want to talk about the very obvious stuff because you can see that. It's a dime a dozen.
Fluff,
Those aren't necessarily bad. I'm just saying that they get a lot of space. So
there are other options too.
I'm nervous. After the cannibalism has emerged already, Under the Skin. Must I be nervous? Nervous about this, or does this speak to a figurative?
Don't worry. Men get eaten alive in this too.
Okay, there we go.
I don't know whether to celebrate or not.
Parity, yeah. Celebrate, girls. Celebrate. Yeah, it's your day.
No, and so that's interesting about whether you celebrate this or not, because in Under the Skin, Scarlett Johansson, who, by the way, a lot of scenes in this they filmed secretly. Men didn't know that she was an actress. They dolled her up and this is for a very important reason, in this classic sort of Hollywood looking. She's a vamp. She's the perfect woman in the Hollywood sense. And they drove around Scotland in this white van. She was a bit of a creep, and somehow she'd like entice guys, be like, "Hey, what are you doing later? Do you want to?" And they didn't know it was Scarlett Johansson. They had hidden cameras in the van, and these dudes would just get in the van with her. And then the actors who they did have, who knew that they were actors, don't worry, these men were told afterwards, you're going to be in a movie. The actors who actually were actors were these guys who become victims to this character, who she's this alien, almost extraterrestrial creature we don't know. And this is one of the great things about the movie. Sometimes you don't need everything explained to you, but she might be this vampire type thing. She might be, it's definitely an extraterrestrial, it seems like. But what she does is lures men to the strange pool of black water that she draws them into. Yeah. And, the movie then becomes about how it's interesting that men find it so easy to just get in a white van, but women can't walk home alone at night kind of thing. Yeah. But then what's interesting about one of the points that you were making, Carissa, is like, it seems like it could be like a yes type thing, but the character gradually realizes that very important to cinema and women, how women are used in cinema, is that she's just a tool. She starts to gain her own agency and her empathy, like, wait, there's a man I'd like to spare. She's feeding these things to a mothership, we don't know, but she gains a sense of self from realizing I'm just an instrument to a larger machine.
Oh, I love that.
I like that.
And I feel like that kind of ties into the next movie. I used to say ex machina. You said ex machina?
That's fine. It's Latin, from Greek, so you could say ex machina if you like as well, but it's ex machina. Alex Garland.
What would you call her?
What
Not
do
a
you mean?
lead character, the
The lead
the doll
android.
android, the android in there.
Well, have you seen it?
Yes, I have.
So then go ahead and tell us what you know about it.
Oh my gosh, the pressure. So there's an android. No, I feel like there's a Mark Zuckerberg type character,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
And he's got this house in the middle of nowhere that's so stunning. And as an experiment, he kind of gets this other guy to come on through. I don't know who the other guy is. Did he win something?
Donald Gleason. He's been in a lot of movies too, but
He's brilliant.
he is excellent. But because I also want to get into some of the themes, though, it's like, well, what you got to understand is that he has taken what they refer to as a Turing test. Turing
you
test is
go.
what they've all been really putting us through as just average people on the
Yes.
internet, is deciphering whether we're talking to a robot or a human. And what they do in this test is the Oscar Isaac's character strips back all of Alicia Vikander's skin
I love
of this
her.
robot to say, even if you're looking at a robot, can you still recognize this or believe that you're talking to
Or
a
you're
human?
still personifying it, yeah.
So obviously all these themes come out about women being treated as dolls.
Yes.
And you mentioned Zuckerberg, and interestingly, this character, you find out that he's been using all of our personal data to make the perfect woman
Exactly.
for you know, the desires of men.
The pleasure,
So again,
yeah.
the crafting of the way the internet, whether it's Instagram or whatever, starts to, you know, carve our minds into being perfectible for consumption by others.
Like a Black Mirror episode.
It is.
Yeah.
It's very excellent. But like, it's, you know, why it's all AI voices, like all your assistants are all female voices. It's very interesting how women are tied into
Great
service.
question.
For
Going back to the handmaiden
sure.
as a maid. Anyway, next.
Let's move on very quickly to Nightingale, or The Nightingale. Set the premise. Your face is already making me a little bit nervous.
So if that's my face after you guys were like, this is intense. This is JP being like, should I have included this? Look, full T's and C's at the top. If you're a survivor of gender-based violence or rape, be very mindful about watching this one first. Maybe think thrice before watching The Nightingale. It's harsh. And at its first screening in Venice, women walked out. But it's directed by Jennifer Kent, who is a woman previously had done The Babadook before this. And she said, if we're dealing with colonial Australia, this is set in Tasmania, we have to be honest about what that was like. This is during a time in Tasmania of what they called the Black Wars, literally referring to Aboriginal people as the Blacks. And they exterminated virtually the entire population of Tasmania willy-nilly. Like if you were an Aboriginal person, you're getting shot or hanged. And the story being is that this lady has her family killed in front of her. She is raped by a British soldier who's decided to make his way up to another town just after doing this, just so as an aside, for promotion. So he gets a promotion after doing this. She loses everything after this having been done. Sounds very much like with a Weinstein situation or whatever. And she tracks him through the wilderness on a plot for revenge for her husband and for her baby and for herself. Her baby is killed as well, and she presses into service and an Aboriginal man. And this is great about the movie is that you first realize, well, she's racist as well. You know, she's Irish, so she's just slightly above Aboriginal as far as
sliding
Aboriginal
scale,
goes.
yeah.
But there's this blending eventually, this, if you wanted to use this term, it's a very particular term, but this intersectionality of oppressions. And again, where coloniality uses patriarchy as an assist to keep its systems of oppression in check. So magnificent film, but really a very, very hard watch. Watch hard to stomach.
For sure, but often those are the most powerful, and for the right person at the right time, a film like that can make a massive, it's a paradigm shift. Buddy, thank you so much for putting yourself through, going through all of those absolutely amazing lists this morning. Thank you, thank you.
Yeah, I've definitely added some more onto my list. I'm going to watch them with caution, as should you. But heavy hitters, heavy movies, heavy themes. Maybe you need something a bit lighthearted. Zanele standing by in Josie with something for you.